Hello, welcome back to this week's edition of The Blame Game, coming to you from a New York City hotel room. I'm still on the road, but I stole Travis's microphone, so hopefully this one will sound better. I want to jump in right away after North America has no teams out of groups, and despite what the title of this video says, I want to come out and preface this right away. Don't be an asshole and go into player DMs and flame them. Don't reply to their tweets when they say, I'm depressed because I failed, and then say, yeah, you deserve it, blah, 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 blah. Like this, the point of this video is not to make pro players feel worse, but it is to recognize and empathize with probably how a lot of the fans are feeling right now. I feel like whenever we fail at North America, and we'll get into exactly how big of a failure this is to justify some of these feelings, but whenever there's a failure, people go too far, there's a lot of flame, and then people kind of push back against that and go after fans for doing that. And I myself am often in that group saying, don't do that. But I think it's important to acknowledge, as fans, you deserve the ability to be upset when things don't go according to expectations, where you don't get the result that you wanted. And this did not even go according to expectations. I'll dig into that in a second. But places like Reddit, threads where you're all going to have this catharsis of anger and frustration and sadness as you go through the steps of grief until you return to acceptance, hopefully in 2023 for another year of it. I just want to say that, like, it's okay to be upset, despite how people will say things like, don't go into player DMs. That doesn't mean just shut up and take it or anything like that. I put a video out before the start of Worlds talking about what fans' expectations should be, North American fans, and going over what a typical year at Worlds looks like for North America. And I did this for two reasons. One, because usually I think there are sometimes loftier expectations than we are able to perform at. And we see the other major regions and we just want to be at the same level of them, and if we aren't, we feel bad. And part of that video was to say, hey, we're not that, and it's okay to not be that, and here's what is okay for us and what we want to do better than, and like what counts as a success. The other reason to do that was because on the flip side, there's people who hate North America, or not really hate, but like they like making fun of us and making jokes, and they make it sound like we're absolute dog shit and that we never had a chance. Go fuck yourself for ever believing in North America, you idiot. And if you look at the results, that's not really true either. Usually we're more competitive. For example, we had like a 40% win rate in game score at Worlds all time. Even though we don't have every single team getting out, a lot of times they are third in their group, taking some games off the LPL or LCK representatives, even if they don't make it out. There's games that are competitive, and it's a closer fight. And that's kind of what I was doing with that video, as well as pushing back against the narrative that North America is always complete shit. We are the fourth best major region. I have no problem acknowledging that, but we're also usually substantially better than the minor regions that we're beating, and that's still kind of true this year. But this year was a massive failure, and I have no problem acknowledging that. I put that video out to temper expectations, where the teams will struggle, get some wins, take a lot of losses. Some teams do go 0-6. Both Clutch and TSM unfortunately have that honor, but usually on average, one team will sneak through, just under one team will get out. And we did even fucking worse. I was saying, hey fans, don't get your hopes up, like maybe one team gets out. Realistically with this year, probably not, but hopefully we can have some competitive games. No, this is the worst year ever for North America, and the worst a major region has ever done, except the LMS, who also had a 3-15 game score year this year. We went 3-15 with no wins in the first round robin, 0-9, which meant that in order to even have hope in week 2, every single team or any team trying to get out would need to win all 3 of their games, basically with like one scenario where you could win 2 and get a 3-way tie at 2-4, basically. But none of that was ever going to happen. So like realistically, all of our teams need to win 3 games, and it made week 1 feel terrible. I made the build up to week 2 feel hopeless, as we're trying to be like, yeah, maybe we can do it. No chance. And then some of these teams do win their first game over Europe, and you have like a little bit of hopium, but it's you're really scratching, you're barely scratching the itch there. So like it felt like a pretty depressing Worlds to watch. And I think it's fine to acknowledge that, I guess, is what my point is with this. Like, it's okay to be upset, because this is worse. This is an underperformance. This is when all the people who rag on North America are actually right with the shit that they say about us. Like, usually they go too hard. They act like we're this region that, is a complete joke. It kind of is true this time around. It's been very bad. And for people who are over expectations sometimes, like, of course that is what it is, but for people who try to have moderate expectations like myself, even this is an underperformance. And I just say, like, I feel that it felt fucking terrible to have to go on and do shows and talk about our ecosystem right now in our region. And like, of course, there'll be ecosystem videos coming out in the off season. I'm not trying to rush to those because there's going to be plenty of time to get to it. I am doing a little bit of research, trying to talk to some people who have more understanding of the eastern ecosystems of LPL and LCK and pick their brains. But either way, like that Tyler 1 video where he's like,
do you understand? I tank the harassment 99% of the time. So when you lose, reminder, you're losing for me. Fucking A, you're affecting me. And at this point, my lawyers are probably gonna contact these teams.
I feel that, honestly. Like, it sucks now that I have to go and record these videos when I want to be more positive. I've been talking a lot about results and game scores and these kinds of things, but a lot of the times it's journey before destination, to steal from Brandon Sanderson. And yes, we in the past have won more games. Yes, in the past we have beaten Eastern teams. The only teams we beat this year, I say Eastern, I really mean LPL, LCK, right? We only beat Europe and Flying Oysters. Like, we did not have a dub to really hang our hat on and be like, look at us go against them and be competitive. And so, usually you have some wins in week 1. This is the first time we had no wins in week 1. So immediately hope felt dashed, as well as the way the games looked. Historically, yes, LPL and LCK are the best teams at the tournament, but just looking at this year's goal difference at 15, all 8 teams of the top half, because there's 16 teams, so top half or 8, bottom half, whatever. The top 8 teams were all LPL and LCK representatives, and they were the only ones with a positive goal differential at 15. All the other teams had negative goal differentials at 15. Even Rogue was under 1,000 goal difference at 15. Now, for them, their strategy was often drafting for mid to late game team fighting, so it makes more sense within the context of what their team was trying to do. But it also just speaks to a level of domination of our regions, both Europe and North America, that previously didn't really exist. Just going back to last year in 2021, for example, Cloud9 was number 6 at goal difference at 15, as well as being positive overall. And a lot of the teams that were negative, kind of more through that 8 to 10, 12 range, were not less, negative 1,000 or worse. Most of them were like zero to like a negative 1,000. Some were at 700 and whatnot. The only team this time around in 2022 from the bottom 8 that was not over 1,000 worse was 100 Thieves. And that makes sense because they played some of the closest games, at least for North America. Though they did not go for Rogue's full scaling identity, so like some of the games felt rough, but there were some closer ones against RNG. There were games where they were contesting Dragons, and 100 Thieves, I would say, had closer games even against the teams in their group like RNG. Cloud9 got fucking dumpstered. Negative 1,900 goal difference at 15 while not really playing scaling that much is just awful. I've used a lot of stats so far, but it's also just eyeball test and strategy. I defended some of Cloud9's choices, and we can argue about that till we're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, we're picking counter matchups and losing them. I'm watching us lose advantageous matchups. I'm watching us, just get slammed with LeBlanc into Azir, or I'm watching our bot lane lose sums trying to trade past the wave in a winning matchup and then fail a dive or whatever it is. Like, these are not good plays to necessarily be watching, and it feels pretty bad to see us like in the EG games, like JoJo getting picked off left and right before major dragon fights occur and stuff like that. So they were, I went over the stats of it, but also just in-game watching it, I often felt pretty bad. Yeah, it's fine. Like, here are all the facts for you about why this is so much worse than we normally do and why it's okay to be upset. Doesn't mean it's okay to be an asshole again in people's DMs or in their Twitter replies or something, but like, call a spade a spade. This was a fucking disaster year, and it's our first year back in North America in 6 years. We're taking hits in viewership to appeal to the North American fan base, like that. Obviously, that's going to happen just because of time zones, and every region should get its chance for representation and whatnot. And so like, this is the year for North America where hopefully things feel better, especially in combination with how the year was ending for the LCS, where the viewership trend started to get reversed. Sentiment around the LCS started to become more positive. I was hoping, it was still a hope that like we would have an okay world showing. Maybe a team gets out of quarters. It's basically a coin flip if it did or didn't. The last 4 years now, only once has a North American team got out of groups, and that was Cloud9 in 2021. 19, 20, and now 22, no team has gotten out. So I guess this is becoming the new normal, which feels terrible to say. But like, I assume, I mentioned this on Hotline League, that there's a somewhat influx of returning people who might have lapsed from watching LCS, or new fans where your friends like, hey, amigo, let's go watch some North American games. Come to this cool event, this thing that I like, and hopefully you can convert new fans. But the level of domination, the gap, the lack of hope even after just a single week, it makes me concerned about like how this tournament has affected North America viewership and all that, like, and sentiment overall, because it felt like everything was trending in the right direction. And I was like, maybe if we end with like a decent showing at Worlds and the event goes well and like all this stuff, like maybe we can, you know, kind of springboard into 2023. There's the news about potentially the change of schedule for the LCS and all that stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I've been kicked in the gut, you know? So I feel pretty bad. Maybe the comment section here just turns into, you know, like the support group where everyone's just venting and sharing stories about whatever. Unfortunately, we did not have a team get out of groups, but the tournament goes on. So for people who don't know, I'm still in New York City. Like I said, we are going to be doing a live Hotline League tonight. This is coming out Wednesday, so this means Wednesday night. If you're in New York City for quarters or just a local and want to come check it out, definitely come through. It's the Cutting Room. I think it's starting at 7. Hope I'm not putting bad info out here. And you should come through and drink with us and forget all of your pain. That's what I'm going to be doing there. We should also have some good special guests this week, so hopefully everyone can come check that out. That's it for this episode of The Blame Game. It's just talking about how bad this was, you know, and acknowledging it, looking it in the face and saying, hopefully we can do better next year. Like I said, I'll be going over ecosystem and all those kinds of bigger questions in the future, but just wanted to do a bit of a post-mortem on group stage for North America. Anyways, on to quarters.
Thanks so much for watching that interview. I'm at Worlds right now as matches are happening behind me, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Alienware supporting me through all these years. Guess what? New York is very, very expensive. Like, think about how expensive it could be, and then like think about it being way more expensive than that. And I wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for Alienware's help. So thank you so much to them. You can check out their link in the description. Also, if you want to see some interviews early, we sometimes post those for members of the YouTube channel. They're shouting out, "Let's go EG," so I guess I need to shut up now.